ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिवा कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमितमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इतीर्थशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति 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 पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अन्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेयोपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Somehow I just repeated it once. वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि वृतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम्. So what we will do today is to recite the entire Dakshinamurti Murti Ashtakam, because we are going to have a different class today based on Dakshinamurti. So if we can just finish all of it, and just at the very end we will have a meditation, and so we will not do a prayer after that. So with that, let me complete the Dakshinamurti Stotra. But before that, the Dhyanam Shloka. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyan Gatsmad Gurun Santatamanatosmi. Om Vishwandarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyanatmani Mayaya Bhairibodbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Bijasyantarivānkuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana Vaichitrya Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vijrambhayatyapi Maha Yogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Yasyaiva spuranam sadatmakam asatkalparthakam bhasate sakshat tattvamasiti vedavachasa yo bodhayatyashritan yat sakshat karanad bhavenna punaravrittirbhavambho nidhau tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Nana Chidrigatoddarasthita Mahadipa Prabhabhaswaram Jnanam Yasya Tu Chakshuradikarna Dvara Bahispandate Janamiti Tameva Bhantam Anubhatye Tatsamastam Jagat Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Deham pranamapindriyanapi chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu Stri balanda jadopamastvam pranta bhisham vadinaha Maya shakti vilasa kalpita mahavyamoha samharine Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Rahu grasta divankarendu sadisho maya samachadinat sanmatra karanopasamharanato yo bhut sushuptah puman pragasvapsamiti prabodha samaye yapatya bhigyayate tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Balyadishwapi jagradadishu tatha sarvasvavasthasvapi vyavrittasvanuvartamanamahamityantsphurantam sada swatmanam prakatikaroti bhajatam yo mudraya bhadraya tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Vishwam pashyati karyakaranataya swaswami sambandhataha Shishyacharya tathaiva Pitraputradyatmana bhedataha Swapne jagrati vaya esha purusho Maya paribhramitaha Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambar maharnartho himamshuh puman Ityabhati characharatmakamidam Yasyaiva murtyashtakam Nanyat kinchana vidyate vimrishatam Yasmat parasmat vibhoho Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Sarvatmatvamiti sprutikritamidam Yasmadamushminstave Tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat Dhyanat cha sankirtanat Sarvatmatvamahavibhuti sahitam Syadishwaratvam swataha Siddhyetat punarashtadha parinatam Chaishwaryam avyahatam Ashubhani nirachaste tanoti shubhasantatim Smriti matrena yat pumsam brahmatan mangalam param Ati kalyana rupatvat nitya kalyana samshrayat Smartranam varadatvat chata brahmatat mangalam viduhu Omkaraschata shabdascha dvavetau brahmanah pura Kantham bhitva viniryatau tasman mangilikau vubhau Om atha, Om atha, Om atha. So as I had indicated to you in the last class, today we will do a teaching based on Dakshinamurti Stotram. The reason for doing that, I think, is that the Brahma Sutra is primarily a manana shilaha. It's for mananam, and mananam requires a fair amount of analysis of what you have already known, Shravanam. So it comes after Shravanam and it requires some analysis. And in that way, it does not give you the fresh vidya that you should have yourself from time to time, but it's a consolidation of the previous vidya that you should have had. That's the nature of the Brahma Sutra. So it can become a little dry at times, if that's the way to put it. So we thought that since some of you have not done Dakshinamurti Stotram, I will take some passages from it very briefly. It won't take a long time, and then review it in the form of more of a direct vidya. So you will see the class today departs from the normal Brahma Sutra flow in providing, really going back to the Shravanam rather than the Mananam, just to consolidate the Shravanam. So that's what we're going to do. And I think what I will do today is take up the first shloka of the Dakshinamurti Stotram and give you the meaning of it, all the words and so on. And then we will follow it up at the end with a meditation, which will internalize the meaning that you have now refreshed in your mind. And I say refresh because I think many of you have already taken this class either from me or from others. I myself had taught Dakshinamurti Stotram quite a bit, and the last one that we did was by using the Sri Sureshwaracharya Acharya's Manasa Ullasa. So this is a very important book because Sureshwaracharya was one of the four prominent disciples of Adi Shankara, and there are hundreds of disciples that he must have had, thousands in fact, but out of them, four of them really stand out, and out of them the Vartikakara is the Sureshwaracharya, and he wrote an exposition of Adi Shankara. The Dakshinamurti Stotram is a composition of Adi Shankara, and so his direct disciple decided to elaborate it because it's in 10 verses, it's very succinct, and it's very highly regarded, Dakshinamurti Stotram, because it really summarizes all aspects of Brahmagyanam, from Mananam to Mananam, from Shravanam to Mananam to Nididhyasanam, everything. In the very last one, for example, as we just saw, so it says, so he says, as you know, the last verse is, Sarvatmatvam iti sphuti kritam idam yasmat amushmin stave. He says that now that the Sarvatmatvam of the Atma, that it is not just one person's Atma, it is in fact the common one amongst everyone. And so that's why it is more important, because it is something to be understood. How can really our Atma for all of us is the same? This is something has to be seen. So he says that has been very well explained by this astave, this tave, by this encomium. And now what you need to do is tenasya shravanat tad arthamananat dhyanat cha sankirtanat. Then sarvatmatva mahavibhuti sahitam syad ishwaratvam swataha siddhe tat punarashtradha parinatam chaishwaryam avyahatam. Anyway, I won't go into the details of that. But it says is that now you just need to internalize it by thinking about it, by living your life consistent with it, and singing the praises of it, sankirtanat. If you do that, you're done. So anyway, this is the book, the text that we are going to take. And in the last time, as I mentioned, we studied was Sureshwaracharya's Manasa Ullasa. And so a very beautiful exposition of the 10 stotram. And those were translated, first of all commented on and then translated by Swami Maheshanandji. And so in the Hindi translation, and so we have done all of that. So what I'm saying is that it's a refreshing in the sense that you probably have already done it, and if not, then it will be something new for you. So anyway, with that, let us go into the first stanza of Dakshinamurti Stotra. So it says, as you know, Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahirivot Idbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanam Eva Advayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaha Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. So we can start from the very end. He says, the one Dakshinamurti, which is the form of Shiva in the form of a teacher, and it's the same teaching which emanates from someone who is actually directly teaching you. So it's all part of the same teaching. It just emanates from Ishvara himself. And so to that Dakshinamurti, and there's a lot of explanation for why it is called Dakshinamurti, why it is, and so on. We won't go into that. But to my namaskara to that Dakshinamurti, who has created this whole interesting Shrishti, this whole creation, a very interesting creation. And if I see the Shrishti to be an interesting one, a phenomenal one with some implications, then I'm done. Sarvat mattvamiti sputikritam. And so to my namaskara to you, my namaste to Ishvara, who has created this amazing set of experiences in my life, which culminates into Ananda in the end. Until I figure it out. The figuring it out itself is somewhat painful, but once I do it, it's all Ananda. I wake up to it. So this is the namaskara to Ishvara. So how does he do it? In what form is this creation done? This is described in the first 3 lines. So he says, Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam. So here he gives starts with an example, Adi Shankara does, which says that suppose you have a mirror which is placed facing outside. You know, sometimes we have I don't find them in this country as much, but in India, where we have it's a very hot country, and many of the bigger homes have a veranda. So that's a covered area which is open, and so people can sit there in the evenings. And so usually there will be a mirror there as well, some pictures or some other things also, some artifacts, but mirror also will be there. So assuming there is a mirror facing outside. Now, if you look at the mirror, what you will see is an accurate reflection of what goes around the house. And if it's in a busy street, you will see people coming in, cars honking, people on bicycles, cows, you know, the usual scene. And you will see all of that in the mirror. And in fact, you don't have to look at the real stuff. You can just keep on looking at the mirror and you will see an accurate reflection of all the activities that is going on. This is the simile that is used in here. Okay? So, Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. Drishyamana Nagari. Nagari means the entire, the town. Is semblance of the town, the activities of the town, that is now reflected from the mirror. And so, reflected in the mirror means it appears to be in the mirror, because the mirror is showing all the activity. So you would think that the mirror itself is part of the activity. It is not. It is not, because in fact it is unaffected by all of that. This is how Ishvara has created exactly the same phenomena that you can see in a mirror facing outside. The same phenomena is really at the very cusp of the creation of the entire world. In the following way, that inside yourself, and in this way you can say that you are unaffected by all the things that are going on, which are reflected in you, as though you are changing. As though the mirror is changing. The mirror also, supposing there is a car passing by, it looks like the car is passing by in the mirror, but it isn't. This is the interesting part of how the mirror is made, and so this is how the Atma is too also. Absolutely no changes to it, and yet the changes appear to be in me. Here, one important thing to see, and this is really the crux of the whole um, the whole first stanza. That is, Swami Maheswaranji has done a very good job of putting a title to each one of the Dakshinamurti Stotra. Each sloka has a title given to it. And the title given to this sloka is Atma Pratyak Swarupam. Atma Pratyak Swarupam. And this is an important thing to see, and we are going to highlight it as part of this verse and on into our meditation. What is the meaning of Pratyak Swarupa? And so when I understood this was an important step in my understanding of what Pratyak Swarupam is. And so we will look at that. But before that, let me finish the word analysis for this shloka, because that's what I promised, so let me finish doing that. So, he says that with the help of Maya, Mayaya, so let's just look at the first line first. Vishwam means the entire set of experiences in my life is reflected in me, nijantargatam. Nijantar means that it's my own, not somebody else's. So in me, the entire set of experiences are reflected. Now an example is given. Pashyan atmani mayaya bahiriva udbhutam yatha nidraya. So the example given is that just like in a dream, so nidraya here means by not deep sleep, but through the dreamlike sleep. As you know, there are three states. One is the deep sleep where the mind itself is asleep. One is the Jagrat Avastha where the mind is fully awake. And the third one is the Swapna Avastha where the mind is awake but semi-awake. It is not fully awake to all the indriyas, but it itself develops certain forms of experiences. So that one, Nidraya here means Swapna Avastha. So in Swapna Avastha, this phenomena occurs. What phenomena? That inside you and outside seems to be reflected. How? Because that way when we see something outside, we don't realize that it is nothing but me alone, but it is projected as though it is outside. And this is the phenomena of Maya. So Nidra, the Swapnavastha, the dream state, is a very accurate representation of the Maya Shakti. And what is the Maya Shakti? The Maya Shakti is what is called Agatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. This is the Sanskrit definition of Maya. Agatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. So Agatita Ghatana means something that has happened which has not happened but it appears to be happening. This was a favorite of Swami Dayanandji, this definition. Aghatita. Aghatita means one that has never happened. It doesn't happen. But it appears to happen. Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. This is the capability of Maya, which becomes very apparent when you analyze your dream experience. Well, I think I was telling you this, this happened about 3-4 months ago when I was reading a very old letter from my dad that was in my file, and I all of a sudden I just refreshed my memory of my dad about his letter and how are you doing, and those were the days when, you know, communication was only done through letters, and I had preserved one of them. I don't have a lot of his letters, but this one was preserved and I was reading it. And so that night I had a dream. And the dream was that there is a knock on the door. I still remember that dream, and I think I've told you about this, that there was a knock on the door and I was saying, "Who is it?" And there was still a knock. So I was a little annoyed that how come the person is not identifying. I open the door and I see my dad. And my father was wearing coat and tie. And you know, he used to wear coat and tie when he was working, but since he was retired, you know, like me also, I'm in my pajamas and kurta pajama and a shawl or something like this. I don't wear unless you're going to a wedding or something like this, you don't wear a coat and tie. So I remember this so well that when I saw my dad, I was thinking, why is he wearing a coat and tie? So this is, I think I told you, this is very interesting because in the dream, I am actually analyzing my experiences of seeing my dad in a coat and tie. So I'm saying I don't understand. I don't think I ever asked him. But I was thinking as I opened the door, why is he wearing a coat and tie and not his normal pajamas? So here's the thing. Going back to this Mayaya Agatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. Here's the thing. When I saw my dad, he was not there because he has passed away a long time ago. So this is called Agatita. Agatita means one that cannot happen. My father that has passed away cannot come back. Not possible. But it is made possible by the dream. Agatita Ghatana Patiyasi. That means that the impossible is made possible by Maya. This is the phenomena. So he says, "Oh Dakshinamurti, you are amazing. How through your Maya Shakti, like in the case of a dream, you have created an experience of things that are not outside, but they appear to be outside." This is the essence of the first verse. So, again, Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaha Idam the Dakshina Murtaye Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahiriva Udbhutam Yatha Nidraya. That just like in the case of a dream, so this is not something where you do not have the experience. So again, you remember the three-way filter of this vidya that we must be very cognizant of. And the three-way filter is what? By now I think you should know this. Just think about it. Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Three-way filter. The Shruti is saying it. Yukti means that it is pointing out the very logic of how this experience of life, which is not real, appears to be real. And Anubhava is that this is not something that you have not experienced. In fact, you experience it every night. So now we have an airtight case. It is not just loosey-goosey. The three filters have now made it airtight. Yup, this is the way it is. And this is the way I should look at things. This is the way I should now start to view my experiences. So this is just like in the Adhyasa Bhashya, that really all experiences are erroneous. This is it. And so that's the all the lines except one. Then in the third line, yeah. So the question is, okay, this is the way it is. So what do we do about it? So this is kind of like the problem definition. What is the solution to it? So that is given in the third line. Yah sakshat kurute prabodha samaye swatmanam eva advayam. He says that the solution is that by a clear understanding of this, unobstructed by doubts, uninterrupted by doubts, if this is clearly seen, which might take some time to do that, then but sakshat kurute, when you can directly see, sakshat aparokshat brahma, when you directly see that I am nothing but that person, that really it is an outside, it appears to be outside, but it is really nothing but, so the whole, in fact, this is the thing, you find that the Atma is not something which is, we say Atma is nirvikaraha, nirgunaha, there is nothing nothing is possible. But ultimately that understanding cannot take place until you find that the vikaraha and the gunas are also nothing but my own situation. This is also a false guna. It is not a real guna. Anyway, we'll go into that a little bit more later. So this is the sense of this verse, this stanza, that really I was trying to see if there was something else that I wanted to bring up before I go to the main theme, which is Atma Pratyak Sarupam. That is the main theme of this shloka. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Now let us look into the main idea that this shloka is pointing out. And that is Atma Pratyak Swarupam. So what does that mean? So what it means is, and that is also explained by this verse. So the essence of this verse is Atma Pratyak Swarupam. Atma Pratyak Swarupam means that my nature, Atma Swarupam, not Swabhavam, not the personality, but the person, Swarupam, is never embodied. It is never embodied. Never embodied, what does that mean? So what it means is that if I look upon myself as an embodied person, embodied meaning associated with a set of bodies, both the Sthula Sharira as well as Sukshma Sharira and a Karana Sharira, all those Shariras, if I look upon myself as an embodied person, I'm making a mistake. Why am I making a mistake? Because Atma is Pratyak Swarupam. Atma can never be embodied. It is something which is inside the body, but not the body itself. And so, Atma, me, I, never happens. In the words of Swami Dayananji, he was very, he would repeat this in meditations and other places. He says, so it's the same thing as being the embodied and not embodied. And that is the meaning of Pratyak Swarupa. So he says, please see that the Atma does not happen. And by the same token, whatever happens is not the Atma. And this can be seen in many ways. And so this is what the Jnani understands very well. So for instance, I'll give you one example. Suppose you feel happy. You are happy with something, for whatever reason you are happy. Same thing goes for unhappy, but let's say, take the example of being happiness. You're happy, you're laughing, you're so on and so forth. Now at that time, your understanding is that I am happy. Isn't it? That's the normal conclusion. Even people will even say that, I'm happy. Or for whatever the circumstances might be, and say, I'm happy. This is not the truth. Why not? Because your state of happiness is an embodied state. Because a sense of happiness is a manifestation of a mind. Because the happiness happens in the mind. And so when you say I'm happy, you are accurately articulating the state of your mind. This is not the truth. This is not the Pratyak Swarupam. Then what is the Pratyak Swarupam if you say that I am happy is not a correct representation of the truth? The reason is, the way to understand that is, that when you say I am happy, along with it is the assertion, I am happy at this moment, subject to becoming unhappy. Isn't it? Whereas the truth is, not that I am happy, but my nature is happiness. And so the happiness, so this is the Anantam, this is the Ananda, Satchid Anandaha. So the Swarupam of myself is happiness. This has to be seen. Now, how do I see it? This is where the entire learning of how Ishvara's Srishti comes about. That even though I'm never capable of becoming unhappy, I can appear to become unhappy, appear to be subjectively happy, conditionally happy. This is what needs to be seen. And in fact, I would say that in the learning and practice of Vedanta, this can throw you off. I can tell you that that was my own experience. Because when I first started learning about Vedanta, when I was exposed to it by Swami Chinmayanand-ji and then later on by Swami Dayanand-ji and so on, I was happy because I found a source of happiness which was not there before for me. And as a result, I was just happy being happy. This is good. But it is a false, it's a declaration of war which is premature. This is the situation. So what I'm saying is that the experiential happiness associates itself with the embodied nature of the human being. But this is not the embodied nature of the Atma. So the disembodied, not disembodied, it's not like it was embodied first or not. But the independent, not happening nature of the Atma has to be understood. And that takes a while to understand because the mind says, how? How can I be the nature of Ananda? You are. This is what the real knowledge of the rishis is. So anyway, the essence of the first stanza, first shloka, is Atma Pratyak Swarupam. So Pratyak Swarupam means that it is not something that you will know experientially, but you will know that as the truth, and the experiences that you have will be consistent with your knowledge. Not as though the experience and knowledge are separate. So, as Swami Dayanand-ji had explained this very well in this wonderful book called Introduction to Vedanta. The Introduction to Vedanta gives the example of the sun rising. And so, in the example of the sun rising, you can have an experience without the knowledge. You can say the experience of sun rising without understanding that the sun doesn't rise. Or you can have an experience with knowledge. That even though the sun doesn't rise, it appears to rise. That's okay. So that's the relationship between knowledge and experience. So similarly, the experience of being happy is not inconsistent, but it is backed by the knowledge that I am nothing but the very nature of happiness. That is the real meaning of Pratyak Swarupam. That my nature is such. And then how can that be? Because, okay, then please study. Please see the Shastra is not just giving you some false hope or anything. It gives you the very truth of it. So anyway, that's what the first shloka is all about. And so with that, I'm not quite sure whether we have done some meditation within this. As you know, we go through an introduction to meditation also and so on. But I think assuming that we might have done it already in this Brahma Sutra class or elsewhere, I won't really give you the introduction to the meditation. But let us just now look at the truth of this shloka, Atma Pratyaksa Rupam, in the case in through a meditation. Okay. So with that, let us switch over to, and we'll end the class with just the meditation. And so let us now do that. So let me switch off these bright lights that are shining in my eyes. Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya. Let me turn off this phone on the right.
Call from Sweetie Parallel. Call from Sweetie.
Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Triambakaya Tripurantikaya Trikalagnikalaya Kalagnirudraya Neelakanthaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Shriman Mahadevaya Namaha. my namaskara to Ishvara, who is helping me through this teaching to see the amazing creation of the experiences of my life. My namaste to you, Ishvara, Shiva, for your dual forms of truth. You are both Paramatma and Parameshvara. As Paramatma, you are the Swarupa, and as Parameshvara, you are the Swabhava. As Paramatma, you are the person, and as Parameshvara, you are the personality. I can understand that as Atma, I am my Swarupa. And as Vishwam, I have the Swabhava. My personality is my experiences, my response to the experiences. And as Swarupa, which is the same as Paramatma, I am Pratyak Swarupa. I understand through your teachings, He Ishvara, that I am never manifest. I am Pratyak Swarupa. I am forever unmanifest. I don't need to be manifest. Your teaching, O Ishvara, explains this phenomena through the following words. I am not known, but I am also not unknown. I am different from known and different from unknown. Known is my manifested state, my embodied self, and the reflection of the world within my embodied self. This is known. I know it. Whatever the experiences I have, I know it. So I am not the known. The known covers the entire set of my experiences. I am not that. But I am also not unknown. Just because I am not known does not mean I am unknown, as your teaching helps me to understand. I already am. I don't need to be known. I am self-existing. Swatasiddha. I am self-effulgent. Swayambhu. I don't need a proof of being known. In this manner, I understand that I am neither known nor unknown. I make the mistake of trying to find myself amongst the known. Thinking that the known also covers me, but it doesn't. I am independent of the known. I am also not covered by the unknown. I am here and now, not unknown. I am the very nature of the present. My embodied self is part of the known. And as part of the known, it is subject to time. There is a past, there is a present, and there is a future. But as the Pratyak Swarupam, I am not subject to time. I can see that I am always present. As in non-manifest Pratyak Swarupam, I always am. Now, 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 now. The past and the future is irrelevant to me. It is only relevant to the manifest embodied me. But I see the truth that I the non-manifest Pratyak Swarupam does not have a past or a future. It is always now, 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 now. This is the nature of being, Satyarupam. And it is very known to me. It's not an alien experience. Now, now, I am now. And this now has no boundaries. Because it is independent of time. It has no time boundaries. It is independent of space. It has no space boundaries. Now, now, now. So it is Anantam. That is the Pratyak Swarupam. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. This is the nature of Paramatma. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So, Chandra, it's interesting just to talk about the freezing today. We are continuing to look into that, and we've got some more solutions coming with Raj. He had actually upgraded it to a different router and modem. But this morning in setting up the class, I had some difficulty. And so we went into, I had to go back to the old one, and I will talk to Raj about it. Somehow the camera was not configured to the right Wi-Fi. So that may be part of the fact that some of the improvements we have made have not really put into place. So this is one issue. Then the second thing is that he's also recommending that I buy a Netgear, which is a more powerful Wi-Fi distributor. So I'm looking into that, and hopefully in the next week or so we will get that. So apologies for continued problems on this. So we're working on it. Thank you so much. Surendra, your question, Atma Pratyak Swarupa. So here the Pratyak and Pratyaksha are different. Okay? So Pratyaksha means it says Pratyak plus Aksha. So Pratyak Aksha means one which is seen by the Pratyak. So the experiences is, Pratyaksha experiences means the one which is directly seen by the Pratyak. But the Pratyak means inner, means unmanifest, the Sakshi. So it is not inconsistent, it is saying the same thing. So the experience is called Pratyaksha because it is right in front of the Pratyak. Whereas Pratyak means right the Sakshi itself, which is never Pratyaksha. So I hope that is clear to you. So there is no inconsistency between. Yeah. So you said also, my understanding is that the Pratyaksha is in front of you. Okay, good. So anyway, apologies for some mishaps, and I think we're still work in progress, but I think we'll solve it. I'm sure that we will find the right equipment And if this thing is not working, then we'll have to get a more powerful set of Wi-Fi distributors, and we'll work on it. I'll talk to Raj, but it is disappointing that in spite of our efforts, we're still having some freezing. I hope it's not too bad, but it must not be very comfortable. So with this, we will go back to now the Brahma Sutra, and we will begin the second sutra from next week on. Okay, and I think we will have a class next week, despite the fact that it's a holiday on Monday, but I think that we will continue with it. I am going to skip a class later on in a couple of weeks or so, but I will let you know as to when that is. But for next week, we will have a class. Okay, so if there's no other further questions, I say goodbye to you, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Om.